All right, and welcome back to the Prometheus Afterthoughts podcast, the podcast where we talk to the most recent boot. And today we are talking to our fourth place finisher, Tracy. Tracy, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Case. How are you?
Doing well myself. So this is your time to talk about anything you want, really, especially your experience in the game, coming from like the outside perspective of not playing any of these orgs before, and then making it to the final four, which is like really exciting. So whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think my goal coming into it was, I was blind, completely blind. When we had first talked about me doing this, I had absolutely zero idea what to expect. Like, I had never even so much as watched, I had heard about these where you get voted off the island and stuff like that, but I had never done anything. Never even watched a show about this. So it was like I had no idea what to expect. And pretty much I was just told to bring like my personality, that it was the social skills. And I'm like, okay, I can do that, because that's what I do for a living. I work in hospitality. So I'm like, well, maybe, okay. And honestly, like when it was getting closer and closer, I was like, I think I'm going to back out. I think I'm going to back out. I don't think I want to do this. I was like so nervous because going into something like this blind, I was really getting nervous, and then I'm like, no, 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 no. This could be fun. This is a new experience. At my age, it's like, okay, I can. Okay, let's do this. I'm just going to do it. All right. It was like rip the band-aid off, just do it. And and coming into it, I was, it was fun to kind of learn as you go. But if I could do it all over again, I think it would be a lot different, because I really went into this like, okay, I want everybody to like me. And then even when people started getting voted off, I was pretty much just like, well, I don't want them to not like me if I vote against them. And so I was kind of really glad to have immunity that first day because I didn't have to do any voting. But, I am very opinionated, and I know that about myself. And I think that was, I think everybody who talked about me pointed out what a straight shooter I am, and I am. Like, I'll tell you what I think. I hate wishy-washy. I hate that. Like, let's just, it was so obvious that very first day when Tasha was having problems with her internet. Like, I don't want to deal with that crap. You know what I mean? Like, like that's just not. And then Michael was like, she's savage. I'm like, savage. I was like, I can't even hear her. How am I supposed to work with that? So it was just like kind of like it was just a no brainer as far as that goes. And then, just I was really observing people as I was playing. So my clear next boot was Maddie never really seemed like he was paying much attention. And it's funny because what you observe and what people's confessionals were like two totally different things, and that was what cracked me up about everything was like, like Maddie always seemed like he was doing something. And then I realized that a lot of people who were on their phones were just messaging each other. And I'm like, oh, so I'm like thinking Maddie's messaging his boyfriend when he's probably messaging, like Josh or something. And I'm like, well, Maddie's got to go because he's not paying any attention to the game. So he's gone. So it was like, I almost felt like I was playing, especially in the beginning, my own game. Like, was I even like really playing their game or was I playing my own game? But clearly it got me up towards the end. So, I was, my goal in the beginning was don't get voted off first. And I clearly surpassed that. So I have to, in that aspect, I was like really happy that it was a great experience. Like I really enjoyed it. But, at the end, my demise was picking the puzzle. Absolutely, 100%. And I love when we were watching, when we were all watching it together, and Antonio was kind of like, duh, like let's pick the 50-piece puzzle as opposed to the slide and or whatever, the 3x5 slide or whatever. But my thought going into it was honestly like, I do 100-piece puzzles with my grandson all the time. I grew up doing puzzles with my dad. I did puzzles all the time. I thought I can slap together a 50-piece puzzle in like no time flat. Like that was my perception. I haven't done a slide puzzle since like the third grade,
Yeah.
like these people are all doing these games all the time where slide puzzles are. But for me, like a slide puzzle is like a Rubik's Cube. Like, am I going to end up like getting it all jacked up? Like, I didn't even want to go into it. I know for a fact I can do a 50-piece puzzle, but I guess in hindsight, I should have probably attempted to do the slide puzzle, and that's probably what was my demise. But realistically, glad I didn't have to face the jury.
So I mean, I am curious about that because the thing is we did see a number of times that, regardless of a lot of the events in the game, nobody really like put any sort of anger or was angry with you at like all. Whereas like we definitely and maybe Louise didn't really turn any of that towards you because you were the final boot of the day. But I still don't really know if you would have gotten a lot of like crap had you made it into the finals, because I mean people do say it, like you told people knew where you stood, they knew how you were voting. Yeah, maybe they weren't exactly happy that you guys were just picking off the other team one by one by one by one. But yeah, I guess people did appreciate your game. We even hear Michael say that, who you ended up voting for, in the end. So I don't know. But with the whole jigsaw slide puzzle thing, I mean, you and Aaron, you weren't as close as what we had shown in the edit, but you guys actually were kind of close. It actually seemed like the thing that delayed you the most was just a little bit of time on rearranging the boot order, because I believe you had just like a little bit of like technical difficulties trying to like type in the boxes and stuff like that.
I did.
But yeah, you actually still finished the puzzle pretty quickly because Aaron was struggling on the slide. So who knows, maybe in the future we'll send you that, 3x3 slide puzzle, see how quickly you can get it. So
it almost makes me want to go, if I knew where to go buy one, almost makes me want to go buy one and see just if I can do it. I should have ordered one on Amazon so I could do it on the plane tonight.
Yeah, that's the thing. I have no clue where the hell you even get slide puzzles. I haven't seen a slide puzzle in stores in years, but yeah, I'm sure Amazon would probably sell them.
I mean, I was in the third grade in 1979, so I don't know. I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, we'll send you a link. You can probably do that on the plane. So.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I have to laugh though. One thing though is that I didn't realize that I was like, I don't feel like I had animosity towards Jocelyn, but one thing that I laughed at when I was watching it back was that when we did get in a room together, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go bye. When I saw that, I was like, wow, I actually did that. And I think it was just because I just felt like not knowing anything about this was like, and like looking back on it, like she would have been a great alliance, but not knowing anything about these games, I think that I was just like, I felt like I should be loyal to my team. And so, in hindsight, I think that I should have utilized her as an alliance. Like, I mean, like now we're friends on Facebook and we love each other's stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she went to Orlando. Love that. You know what I mean? Like it is such a different ball game. But, I didn't realize that I like darted out of the room when we were in the room together. I was like, don't know what to say to you. Okay, I'm going to peace out now, and then when she went back to another breakout room and she was like, well, Tracy just was in the room with me and she just, and I did do that. And I was like, oh my gosh. I didn't realize. Now that was a little bit savage. But when I'm watching stuff like that, like, I guess you don't really realize it, and then just taking what everyone said for face value, like believing, like I didn't realize that Antonio was this big snake. And I really believed that, that CJ voted for me and I believed all that. Like now I would be completely on guard for all of that. I would just be, like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I don't believe you, because really, it really took for me like the middle of the second day to realize it was every man for himself,
Yeah.
and that was what was so funny is that I was really still trying to like, well, I'm friends with them and I'm friends with them and we were all on the same team. And so everything's good. Like, I didn't realize, I guess I didn't realize how backstabby it was getting, like, and that everybody was so twisted because I am such a straight shooter. Like, if I don't like you, I'm going to tell you that I don't like you, with the exception of the whole Jocelyn thing. Cause like I said, that was just awkward, but I don't know, but I have to say, I don't know if I'm happy or not happy that I wasn't a bigger part of Louise's revenge. Like, I feel like I was just like, wow, she didn't have any anger towards me. And that's, I don't know if that's good or bad. Like, was it good that I was kind of like in the sidelines and I was, most likable and stuff like that? Or, is it better to lay low? Like Michael, like people had so many things to say about Michael throughout the whole thing. Like,
Yeah.
when are you going to start playing? But yet he never got a single vote. And, and people didn't have a lot to say about me, but I was getting a lot of votes, but I just never ended up getting the majority. So I
Yeah.
don't know. It was kind of fun to stick around to watch the whole process. It was my very first time. It was really fun to stick around and watch the whole thing unfold, and that's where I think that I really enjoyed this whole thing. Like, I'm not sure if I would do it again because I don't know, I might, but really fun. Like when I did it, it was just really fun to watch the whole thing unfold. And I'm super glad that I had immunity that first day because I don't know, would I have been voted off the first day? I don't know. But I did seem to have some, like, I don't know if it was real or fake, but like people said, what do you think, Tracy? What do you think? And they really seemed to value my opinion on that first day. So, I think that one of my favorite things was when Michael called me captain. Okay, captain. It's like that was like when I was like, oh wow, look at me. I'm like somebody important at the beginning. That was kind of neat.
And you didn't have to get it through a maze because I know that was one of the things you were saying at the beginning of the game was like, hell, if I have to do a maze, I'm not going to be able to do that maze to get myself to be captain. But that's the thing, from everything I've seen in the footage, and if it wasn't the case, it wouldn't have been in the show. But everything that I could tell, people did value your opinion. People did come to you. There were a number of times even when you were immune and you had no power to vote anyone else out, you still spoke your opinion about the game. You still spoke your opinion about who should go and why. And people did seem to value that. You, regardless of not having any power, you still had a hand in those things. Even in day two, when you had the power to vote, we still heard your opinion. And I think Antonio says it in a confessional, but he says something along the lines of like, you have the ability to like kind of guide the vote a bit. And it's not to say that you were necessarily spearheading anything, but that still shows that you had influence in the game. And that is crazy because you didn't watch any reality competitions. You've never played anything like this. And you came in. And I think one of the wonderful things, especially seeing it back like this, is that we did see this evolution. You kind of figuring out day one while not having any power, but being immune. And then as day two was progressing, we had seen that, okay, I finished season one the night before. It's very interesting to see people's thoughts in the confessionals, which you also were just saying was the same thing for season two, watching it back. And then as the day goes on, you do kind of gain your footing a bit. You might be a little bit behind some of the other people, but that progress was still really cool to see.
Well, I had to, I realized after day one how important season one was. And I was like, oh crap, that night. I was like, okay, I'm going to lose some sleep and I need to binge hardcore. And because I realized how much you pulled from season one to incorporate in season two. And I'm like, I better study up hardcore because one thing that I am super glad I did after watching season one was write down the order of the boot. So I was so grateful when I made it to, top four that I actually had a list of who got booted in what order. Because if I hadn't written that down, I would have immediately been like, done.
Yeah.
It was bad enough I had technical difficulties trying to get the things in the boxes, but I would have been like, oh my gosh, I would have froze. So it was a really good thing that I went back. But one thing that I couldn't figure out, and this was funny because like watching Bloody's confessionals, I couldn't figure out what the hell she was always writing. I'm like, what is she writing? And then watching everything back and seeing her notes, I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, I was just blown away by that. And I guess that's why she's so good at the game. But then again, I realized that people in such powerful positions that have that much experience are also large targets. So, and it's funny because when I originally was just like, because I liked her right out the gate. When she was talking, I was like, wow, she knows her shit. She would be a great person to be on the team. That's why she was my first pick. But had no idea saying these things was actually putting a target on her back. Like I didn't have any clue, because I'm just the mouth without a filter a lot of times. And with, and saying something like that, to me, that was just harmless. But then realizing as the game was progressing, like that, and everyone kept saying, well, Tracy said that, and Tracy said that. And I'm like, what did I say? I like her, And then realizing that those kind of words are harmful. Like you need to be a little bit more, low key. And like I was just couldn't believe how just such tiny things like that were just such big, big
Yeah.
things for this game. And that powerful people like that do have to go at the end. And, and realizing that kind of stuff, like, and Antonio playing so many different sides of the fence and stirring the pot and starting shit and all that other stuff. That was like hilarious to watch on the back. Cause like I said, what he portrayed up front and what his confessionals were like two separate things. So, having that knowledge now, I would probably play a whole different game as well. But, maybe one of my biggest assets of this whole game was going in blind. Who knows? I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, if I hadn't have screwed up if I hadn't have taken the time or had the technical difficulties with the boxes, I mean, it could have ended up being, who knows? I might have won this game. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's but it seemed funny because like as the game was progressing, less and less people were talking about me, less and less people were noticing me. Like, it was like people were talking about Michael, and then Louise took a lot of attention off of everybody. I mean, she was just even when she was in the sticks, it was like, and she was just in her hot dog suit and her, and all her filters and everything and blowing people up. And it was like, that's where like all the focus went, and then Jocelyn became this goat of the game all of a sudden, and it was like,
Yeah.
and I was just kind of like quietly in the sidelines and, and all of a sudden Aaron's making great decisions and everyone's like, yeah, Aaron. And I'm just like, so I don't know if it's good or bad to kind of like to be, but I guess if I made it to top 4 and it was my first org, maybe, being able to lay a little low wasn't bad. It was like I was brought up just enough that I was in the game, but not enough that I was getting ousted. Like I was getting some votes, but not enough to like to push me out. And honestly, I really, even when I was voted for, like I never really had the sense that I was going. Like I thought I had enough allies to like keep me around because Michael and I messaged a lot and I really believed him when he said, I have your back, don't worry about it. And he never did vote for me. So like I
Yeah.
really, I really did believe that Michael had my back. And I think that's one of the reasons why I voted for him too, like at the end, was because of his loyalty
Mhm.
and his and the way he did play the game because what he showed up front and then what his confessionals were, I was cracking up. I was like, whoa, hello, Jekyll, hello, Hyde. It was funny to see two different people. It was
Yeah.
hilarious.
But it was
But
very interesting to see those bonds that you had created. Yes, the initial bloody bond, and then later with the Michael bond, which did factor into, as you just did say, you voting for him in the end. But it's funny though, like especially with the bloody, talking about bloody in such a positive manner publicly is the same thing that, Jeffrey did too. It is kind of that thing of, not understanding really how these things do go. But I mean, you have that now. You now know how it does go. So it would be interesting to see you again, because like if you were to play again in a future season, it could go one of two ways. It could go you end up being all the better for it, or now you have all these extra thoughts of like, wait, well, I have to do this, and then it potentially like messes you up because now you're
yeah.
overthinking everything. But it's still very interesting, and if this ends up being the only thing that you've ever you ever do for an org, I think you made your mark. You received quite a bit of votes for fan favorite. You were most likable in the game. So, I mean, hopefully at the end of the day, you are proud of it all.
I am. It was really fun. I was riding on a pink cloud for like a couple weeks after it was over. I was like, wow, that was really an adrenaline. I never thought that something like this would be an adrenaline. I thought you'd had to like bungee jump to get such an adrenaline rush, but this was really an adrenaline rush. Like it was really like, and I never really thought maybe because it's my age, maybe it's because I don't do this kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, I'm still trying to filter. Like I had to put the chat on silent because, I keep hearing Like, I don't even know. I still don't know what a Discord is. Like, everyone keeps talking about Discords. I don't know all the lingo. It took me, I actually had to Google what an org was. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That was like somewhere in the middle of day one. I was like, an org? What are we doing? An org? Oh, okay. Because, I am 52. So I don't know. But, overall, the experience was really fun. Like, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the bonds that I made with people. I really enjoyed the experience. Like, I am really happy that you asked me to do this. And I just, it was one of those things that I definitely will never forget, and people are just like, at work and stuff, if I'm like catching up, like I'll catch up on the podcast and stuff like that, and they're like, what are you watching? And I'm like, what people are saying about me, and they're like, what? I'm like, it's just fun to like hear people talk about me and just see what people's opinions are of me, because it was just interesting along the line to see what people had to say, and my impact on their game and their opinions. And I don't know, it was just a wild ride. That's all I can say, is it was a wild ride. I can see why people get addicted to this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, big time. But I guess on that note, do you have any final thoughts before we officially conclude this?
No, I can just say that I'm just grateful for the opportunity, and it was super fun. And yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was really a great time. And maybe, who knows, maybe I will do another one in the future. We'll see. But
Right.
I think you're right. I think maybe going into it, I might be overthinking it too much. So maybe I wouldn't do so well in another one. Maybe I should just stop while I'm ahead.
Well, I think you'll have, if you come back for a future season, you'll have a little bit of time to really process everything and maybe kind of calm down from the hype. But yeah, I guess on that note, yeah, thank you for playing the game and thank you for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate that. And thank you to everyone who has been watching all the podcasts so far. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. But on that note, have a good night.
Thanks, Case. All right. Bye.